This is a really early, really rare bell Tainter graphophone. This is the first spring-driven machine that Columbia made, and so it is from the dawn of this technology. This is a Model K, and I already did a video on the Model F, which was a very similar machine, but it had an electric motor. So this machine is made with a bell Tainter upper works, which they then put onto a cabinet with a spring. Let me tell you a little bit about bell Tainter. Edison invented the phonograph in 1877, the first machine with the capability of recording sound and playing it back, and it was on tinfoil. He let that sort of stagnate, that idea stagnate. It was, used around the world. People copied what he was doing and were very impressed with it. But he really didn't develop it anymore for a while, and that's because he was concerned with the light bulb at that time. So Alexander Graham Bell, having received an award, the Volta Prize from France for his invention of the telephone, decided to open up a lab and work on sound recording. And it was run by his brother Chichester Bell, or Chichester Bell, I'm not quite sure, and Charles Sumner Tainter. This was the fruits of their labor. They came up with a method of recording that didn't use a needle indenting tinfoil. It used a sharper stylus that cut a groove into a material. What they chose as a recording medium was a cardboard tube with a material on it like a wax called ozocerite. So this is an original bell Tainter ozocerite cylinder. Absolutely incredible and very, very rare. It's 6 inches long. So Bell and Tainter came out with their product, and it did reasonably well. But once Edison found out about this technology, he was a little bit miffed because he felt that someone was taking away one of his greatest inventions. So he came back to it, and in around 1888, he started developing his own system, which used the more common wax cylinder, the 5-inch wax cylinder. Eventually, Bell Tainter, the Columbia Gramophone Company, adopted Edison's specs. So this cylinder fits on this machine between these two plungers. But in order to adapt it to play Edison cylinders, they manufactured this part. And on the early ones, the threads were 160 threads per inch. They adapted it to Edison standard, which was 100 threads per inch. So this machine will play Edison cylinders. The difference is, on an Edison cylinder, the reproducer goes from left to right, and on this, it goes from right to left. So you got to get the cylinder on the correct orientation to play it properly. But they will play. So I'm going to actually play one of those. This machine, although it stems from the treadle machine, this was where Columbia decided they're going to get out of the treadle business and get into this type of thing, a spring motor or an electric motor. And then this was radically changed a few years later and became more common, what we more commonly see as a Columbia graphophone. Let's come in and take a good look at this. I thought I'd start with the decal. This is an original decal or decal that came with the machine, and it always amazes me when a machine this rare and this early survives in such great condition. Here's the ID plate. On most of the bell Tainters, you'll see a really nice ID plate on the end of this pulley. But those machines that were treadle machines used a larger pulley. They had to reduce the size of the pulley to make this one work with a spring motor. Now the electric one I showed you, the K, still used the larger pulley because the electric motor could be used with the larger pulley, and you could see the ID plate on that was really beautiful. Okay, here we go. There is the mandrel that is there to adapt to Edison. You can see there's a switch to turn it on or off. There's a crank to wind it. And then there's a speed adjustment. Leave it right there. And then over here, you can see on and off. This was used as a dictating machine. So the way it was used was you could disengage the mandrel from the motor. So the motor would still be spinning. You can see those teeth there to engage it. The mandrel would still be, the motor would still be turning, but the mandrel would stop turning. This way you could start recording back again right where you left off, and you didn't have to have the motor running and winding down while you were doing that. Here's the reproducer. The place where the reproducer goes, and I'm going to get the reproducer out of it in a second. You'll notice there's no shaver on this machine. It didn't come with one. So let's open the cabinet and see what's inside. There's the spring motor. Big honking thing. Then I've got this here, which looks like an adapter to put a different size bell tainter cylinder on it. And then I've got here, this is all original, the box that housed the recorder and the reproducer. If you look at a reproducer from a later Columbia, the writing is the other way around. So this looks upside down. But that's because this goes from the top to the bottom. So it goes on this way. So there's the reproducer. You can disengage the reproducer by flipping this up. Got to be really careful because it's a gutta percha reproducer and they're quite fragile. The gears are really neat on this machine. Okay, let's give this a try. In order to bring the reproducer back to the start, I got to tip it up and bring it over and lay it down there. The horn I'm using is an early horn, but not the one that would have gone on this. You can see I've already put the cylinder on, and I put it on backwards relative to how you would do this on an Edison machine. So I'm going to start it up, see if this works. Oh, it's not spinning. Oh, that's because there's a start and stop switch, or on-off. So I'm going to press on.
The Lost Chord by the Edison Quartet.
I like that. I took the crank off because, like all early Columbias, the crank comes off and unwinds when it's playing, so you should take it off or it'll just fall off. Okay, I'm going to try the Ozocerite cylinder and see if there's anything on it. That didn't sound too bad. I'm quite impressed. I'm glad there's a recording on it. I don't know what that recording is. It's probably a home recording, and it was probably made back in the day. So that's pretty cool. Now, in order to facilitate other recordings and re-recording, Columbia came out with this cylinder, which is sort of like an Edison wax cylinder, but the core is the same size as the Ozocerite. So this cylinder would have been good for recording and reproducing sound, and then you would shave it, and then you could record again. So unfortunately, this machine doesn't have a shaver, but there was a Columbia shaver made that was a treadle machine. And I'll show that in another video.